Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today I'm going to be working on this little scooter. It's a Honda Elite 50, 1999. I ended up buying this scooter like a week or two ago, and I bought it because it has the AF16 engine case, which, if you guys don't know on scooter stuff, the Honda Dio and the Honda Elite both have the AF16 and 18 engines, which are actually very good for, you know, souping up. So I figured I'd pick this thing up because they're kind of tough to find, and I've been kind of saving some searches on Facebook Marketplace, and this one ended up popping up for 400 bucks, and I went and picked it up, and it ran, but it ran pretty poorly, because whoever installed the top end kit, because somebody put a top end in it prior to me owning it, they did not put a head gasket in it. So it kind of just acted loaded up all the time. It didn't really run all that good. So I tore it down, and I found that the piston was scored up a little bit, and it just kind of had a lack of compression, probably mainly from the head gasket not being installed. So I tore it all down, and this is what we're looking like currently. Also, the base gasket around the bottom of the cylinder had RTV on it, so that wasn't obviously the best. I'm working on cleaning this thing up as best as I can. I'm going to try to get a lot of this dirt and grime off of the engine case. I just took the wheel off, and I'm just going to try to clean up the engine cases as much as I can without taking it out of the bike, even though it is only like 1 or 2 bolts to remove the entire engine. Alright, so like I said, I'm trying to clean this thing up and get it running properly, and hopefully have, I don't know, a 50 mile an hour, maybe 60 miles an hour scooter at the end of this. So I'm going to try my best to see how fast we can get this thing going with a pretty basic set of parts. I've seen just Honda Elites in general, stock Elites, selling for over $1,200 around my area. Some of them are even $2,000 for this scooter. So for me, only having $400 into it, I did not feel guilty spending another 500 bucks on a bunch of parts from Scooter Swap Shop. If you guys haven't checked out their YouTube channel, they do a ton of scooter stuff, and Roxy helped me unbox a lot of this parts that I got from Scooter Swap Shop. These are all the parts that I got from Scooter Swap Shop. This is their sport kit for the Honda Dio or Honda Elite scooter. This is an 82cc big bore cylinder and piston from NCY. So we're going to be installing that. We're also going to be installing this S23 for competition only exhaust pipe. They send the clutching, jets for the stock carburetor, and the gaskets here, as well as an upgraded exhaust gasket with the copper O-ring so it doesn't blow out. These are just clutch parts. So this is the secondary clutch spring. Comes with upgraded head studs, or cylinder studs and nuts. Transmission gasket and some transmission gears. I believe these gears are for some higher top speed, and the stock gears that are currently in the bike are probably going to be like a ton of torque. So we'll see how they are with the stock gears first, and then maybe later we'll upgrade the gears.
Oh, sorry.
But Scooter Swap Shop actually put this kit together as like a, here's everything you need, we've done the hard work kind of thing. All you got to do is put the parts in. So I'm going to just put the parts in, and hopefully we can have a ripper scooter by the end of the day. I have done Yamaha Zumas before with parts from them. I've done parts from Scooter Tuning Canada. I've done a couple different scooter builds, but this one I wanted to try a different platform because I've never had an Elite or a Dio. I have, you know, just kind of found that these things are a lot more capable than the other scooters I've had in the past. So even just a basic sport kit, I want to see how it is and how fast it is and how it compares to the Zumas, because Zumas are not cheap either nowadays.
Did you say how much this was? Or
Yeah,
does that
all
not
this
matter?
stuff was 500 bucks.
How much was this?
400 bucks. So I'll have less than $1,000 into hopefully a scooter that rips wheelies and does over 50 miles an hour. That's my goal.
I think you might need that one. That has something in it.
All right, guys, so first We got to put the cylinder on and put the piston in the cylinder. So I just checked the ring gap. These things are pretty much set up out of the box, but I just wanted to double check to make sure that the rings weren't too tight. So I just put the piston ring in the cylinder here, and then I use the piston to push it down and level it out. And I got a feeler gauge here that I'm just going to stick into the little gap up here. There's a little gap where the rings come together. And I'm just going to take my feeler gauge and make sure we have about 10 thou of clearance. This one's a little tighter than 10. Try a 7. So it's probably right around 8 or 9 thousandths on that ring. We're going to check the other one. And whatever ring gap is bigger, we're going to put on the bottom of the piston.
Does she add great background noise to this video?
Right. Roxy. Yeah, so this one's got a little bit more clearance to it. This one's right around 10. So I'm going to put this one on the bottom. And you can see on the piston there's little pins. There's a little pin on the piston. So you can see there's a little pin here, and that's where the ring actually is going to sit. And there's actually a ridge on the ring on these little 2-stroke piston rings. I don't know if you can tell or see that. There we go. So you can see on the ring, it's got a step. So that step where it's lower is going to go on the pin on the piston. So you can see we're just going to kind of spread these open gracefully. Don't go too crazy, otherwise you're going to break the ring. They make tools for this, but I've always done it by hand, just being as careful as possible. And actually I was wrong. I'm putting the piston ring upside down. That ridge towards the bottom that I was showing you actually goes, it faces up.
You think if you had a tool it would be on already?
Maybe. But I got her. So you can see that little pin actually keeps the ring from rotating.
Why does this
all the way around.
suck?
Probably because it's humid out. So yeah, I'll show you when I get the other ring on, but. And the pins are offset from each other to prevent the gaps from lining up with each other. Because if you put the piston ring gaps with each other, you could actually lose compression through that. So now we have both rings installed here. So you can see the ring can only rotate that far, and then the bottom one is over here. So now we're going to install this into the cylinder with the arrow facing the exhaust. So there's actually an arrow on this piston that we're going to put towards the exhaust port. So you see the arrow there, and we're going to feed the piston in from the bottom. This cylinder is actually lubed up out of the box, but I feel like we could put a little bit more 2-stroke oil on this before we slide the piston in. And then once the piston is slid in, we can then install one circlip. Actually, we could probably do that with it off. So we take our circlip here, and that's going to fit in the piston like this, and that's what's going to hold the wrist pin, which connects the piston to the connecting rod. So you could do this with like a needle nose pliers or something. Squeeze the circlip. Try not to let it go flying across the room. So sometimes it's easier to get one end of the clip installed and then work the other end in. So it might actually be easier to put the bigger end in first. There we go. And then take the, God, this is tedious, but gotta do it.
I'm not a big fan of this non-focus.
Oh my, you need a little focus too, huh?
I'm hot. Sorry.
Yeah, it's super hot out.
How come it's not focusing?
It's not quite all the way into the groove. So we're just gonna take a pliers here and pop it into the groove that's in the piston. Can you see that on camera or no?
I don't know. I think this isn't very good lighting.
So now that we have one of the circlips installed, make sure that guy's nice and tight and it's seated into the groove. We should be all good. So now we'll put some oil on the cylinder, and then we're going to oil the pin. Now we can install all this onto the bike. I also am going to be installing these new studs into the case as well. This is what the cylinder is going to slide onto. Alright guys, I just got some 2-cycle engine oil, and I'm going to lube up the cylinder. I just filled up the cap of the bottle with oil. I'm going to take my finger and just kind of walk it around the cylinder like this. Try to just get some oil in there. Don't need a ton, but a little bit to coat it so the piston isn't sliding on there dry for initial startup. So now we can take the piston itself, we can compress the rings with our fingers and make sure the arrow is going towards the exhaust and just kind of pop it in. You gotta compress these rings in order for it to slide into the cylinder, so you just gotta kind of walk it around slowly, pushing in on the ring as you slide it up. There we go. Got the piston installed into the cylinder, and we have enough room here yet to install the pin in there as well. I'm sorry if the lighting's bad. Maybe try it from this side. There we go. So you can see we have enough room to still slide the wrist pin through, so we can slide all this onto the engine after we get the studs installed into the case. So I'm going to put these guys in the case, probably just put a little oil on the threads before putting them in. And I kind of cleaned up the cases as best as I could. I didn't go crazy because I'm not pulling this engine out. I may do a stroker build on this and kind of turn it into a drag scooter after this summer, but for the rest of the summer I'm just going to run the sport package and see how I like it. I might just stick with the sport package, we'll see, but I'll probably end up taking all this out and cleaning it up eventually. But yeah, so like I said, these studs are going to go right into there. Oop, not into the crank, but you can see where the holes are, where these thread in. So we'll just gotta thread these guys in there, and then we'll put our base gasket on, and then we'll put the cylinder on. There we go. Ugh. There we go.
Sweating real
right,
good.
So we got the studs installed into the case. Now we're gonna take our wrist pin bearing and put it into the connecting rod. I already have all this stuff oiled up. Unfortunately, this kit does not come with a new wrist pin bearing, so we're reusing the old one. Next, we're going to take our cylinder base gasket, which is the paper gasket, and we're going to install that onto the cylinder here over the studs that I just put in. Just like so. I know you can actually port this. This is called the boost port, I think. You can see how the gasket doesn't actually line up. And it's because usually this setup, you port the case, but I'm not doing none of that.
YOLO.
Yeah. I would if I had the engine out. Right, so now, we're gonna slide the cylinder onto the studs, just like that. And then we're gonna take the connecting rod, put it in the center of the piston, and then take our wrist pin and slide it through the hole. I probably should have done this on the other side. Can you put it through?
Doesn't matter which side of the hole. What do I do?
Just push it in.
It's not going.
Here, put some oil on it.
Lube her up.
Here, I'll put oil on it. I'll hold the cylinder. Hold it up.
Ooh, it's blue.
Yep, 2-stroke.
You ready?
Yeah.
Smells like Dawn dish soap.
Looks like it too.
It's not going. Okay, whatever.
Just trying to line up the connecting rod with the pin and everything. We're just gonna make sure that that pin is all the way seated in. There we go. Now we gotta put the other clip in on this side, and then we can put the base, the cylinder all the way down. I really should have put the other side on instead of this side, because this side's a lot harder to do when it's in the bike. Alright guys, so I got the other circlip installed, and I got the cylinder pushed down.
This looks so creepy.
What?
Because it was like pulsating.
Oh. Now we're putting the head gasket onto the cylinder here. Just like that. And then the cylinder head itself, I'm going to assume it goes this way, like that. Because then this is lined up, and this little thing is lined up. And the spark plug was in the back on the old setup, so I'm assuming that's how it goes. Grab our nuts, put those on. See, this is fun, guys. Alright, we'll get this torque down, and then we'll move on to the exhaust, and then the carburetor. Alright guys, a little update on the Elite. I got the top end of the bike all put together, and I got the cooling shrouds installed, spark plugs in, and I put the exhaust pipe on. It's pretty easy, just 2 bolts on the cylinder, and then 2 bolts on the case to mount it. And man, that thing looks nice. It's almost got like a clear coat finish where it looks like it almost looks like it's full of oil, but it's not. It's just a very shiny finish. So like I said, got that stuff installed, and now I'm working on the clutch. I also took the carburetor off because the carburetor that was on this bike was like a you know, Chinese replacement one. This is the original one that came on the bike, so I put that carburetor on it with a 94 or 92 main jet. I can't remember exactly what main I put in it, but I think it's like a 94 that I put in the bike, because we definitely need to jet it up. And I feel like maybe the reason this thing partially was down on power and acting like it was loaded up is because it might have been a little lean prior, because it had a 68 main jet before, and we just went up a lot on the main jet. So I'm hoping this thing rips. I also just took the CVT cover off, and I'm installing the CVT that comes with the kit. I forget exactly what brand it is, but yeah. And then the secondary clutch back here, the one that drives the wheel, I am putting together right now with the yellow spring that they install, or that they include. So you just got to take this little clutch apart and install this yellow spring. And then on the part with the shoes on it, I installed these red springs in here instead of the stock ones that look like this. So I took these ones out and I installed the red ones they supply in the kit. And these springs that go into this piece are kind of like your torque converter. So these springs will raise the stall speed, so it's not going to take off for another couple hundred RPM, which kind of helps the bike launch a little bit better. So I'm going to put this clutch back together, and I'm going to do it with my feet. They make a tool to do this, but I've done this on a couple different scooters now, where you kind of just take your feet and you get it compressed, and then install the nut. And then give her an ugga dugga. There we go, guys. We got the yellow spring and the red torque converter springs. We're gonna get this put back on the bike. All right, guys, I got the Honda Elite all together. I ended up changing from the stock oil pump system, so the stock oil injection, I'm actually deleting it. So I have the gas tank removed and the oil tank removed, and now I'm putting in this plug. I bought this actually from eBay. This is a plug for the oil pump spot down here. So what this is going to do is it's going to sit down in here like that once I get it pressed down in there. And I'm probably going to put a little bracket or something across the top so it can't pop out. And I did that just because I want to just have a consistent premix. I think these things actually don't run a lot of oil stock, and with the added power and RPM of this engine, I want it to run a little bit richer mixture of the oil to gas ratio. So I'm going to do that quick. I'm going to get the tank back installed, and then we are going to see if this thing fires up. All right, guys, we're going to go see how fast the Honda Elite goes now that we put the NCY big bore kit in. I gotta fix this kickstand though. It just sits here and rattles like crazy. It makes me feel like the bike has a crank bearing going out of it or something. Gotta get some heat in this thing. I can't remember exactly what jet I have in it. I think it's a 90 main and then the stock pilot jet. And I think the pilot jet might be a little too small because I do have the screw almost all the way out. There we go, and we got some heat in this thing. Let her eat. This has the really big gearing in it. The other day I was able to get 52 miles an hour out of it. But I do think that the rollers that they supply with the variator when you buy this kit, they might be a little bit too light for me being a 200-pound dude. I feel like I'd want to put a little heavier roller in it because, like, especially with the gearing that they supply, it's a very tall gear. So like if I just take off from a stop sign, it just it seems like it, you know, the clutch is slipping, you know, like you're blowing through the torque converter. That's what it seems like. So I can fix that with a little heavier roller so it doesn't have the RPM shoot up as high. I'll show you an example of what it's doing. It only does this with the big tall gearing in it. When I had the stock gearing, it was awesome because it just ripped power wheelies all the time. But with the top speed gearing in it, I feel like I have to go to a slightly larger roller. You hear it just screaming, not moving. And then once it catches up, like right about there, the contra opens up and it shifts to second gear. Look at that, we're pegged. The speedo is just gone. The speedo is gone. It left the chat. So I'm thinking that I almost want to put a heavier roller in it or put that stock gearing back in, because realistically I don't care to do 50. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to do 55 on this thing if I wanted to, but these things are a lot more fun to me, having a lot of snap off the line, and you know, having a hard time keeping the front end on the ground is a lot more fun than chasing speed on something with, you know, wheels that are probably bent and tires that are 10 years old. So, but it definitely has a lot of mid-range power. Like, if I snap on it from like 25 or 30 miles an hour, I'll back it down here, and I just yank it. It's pretty responsive. I mean, It doesn't look it with this gearing, but you can tell that the motor is like ready to go. Also, when I initially put this thing together, I used I don't know if it was the stock spark plug, but I used a BKR6 or BR6, which is a pretty hot plug, especially for a big bore kit. And I ended up locking the bike up at like 3 in the morning one night. I was riding around, and I was just riding normal, like I was like half throttle, and it literally just locked up. The piston seized into the cylinder because the plug was too hot, and it was a little too lean on jetting, I think. But I saved it. It's not fried. So I put a BR8 spark plug in, and I went up like 2 jet sizes, and now it's a little rich, but the plug is nice and brown. But like you can tell, it takes a while to warm up. That's kind of a telltale that like you're right on the money for jetting. It should cough a little bit when it's cold, like if you pull out of the driveway and yank on it, you know. Yeah, like I said, I got about 52 out of it on GPS. I had a phone app. I'll maybe insert a picture in here. I got 52 out of it the other day. It was about the same temperature as it is today, and I stayed in it for like a mile and a half. Literally, I was tucked. Everything it had, I got about 52, which I think I should be able to get quite a bit more than that, but I'm pretty sure these rollers are just way too light. So maybe before I completely change the gearing back to stock, I might try a heavier roller and see how that does. But I want to do a stroker in this thing really bad. I want to be able to do 60 miles an hour and rip power wheelies and have a whole shot monster, because currently this thing is not a whole shot monster with the gearing that's in it. I mean, it's not bad if you leave off idle, like if you leave from a complete dead stop, it sucks. But if you're rolling like 5-10 miles an hour, it's not that bad. So yeah, that's the Elite, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the little build. I put it all back together, but I didn't film a whole lot else with like installing the plastics and stuff like that. But yeah, there it is. Hopefully we'll do another build soon and make this thing even faster. So have a great night and a better tomorrow. We'll see you later.